Happy Wednesday, June 19th, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's weather forecast, we're going to be talking about a heat wave that is building stronger across the United States as we go deeper through the week and into the weekend. Rounds of severe weather across the northern periphery from the upper Midwest into the Great Lakes in the Northeast over the next several days. And Tropical Storm Alberto has formed and is moving into Mexico and South Texas over the next 24 hours. So if you are new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll keep you covered across North America on the latest weather information. Make sure to give the video a like, give it a thumbs up down below if you like today's weather forecast. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. We'll get to those later on today. So let's look at the morning lows across the United States here. From eastern Canada down into the eastern U.S., temperatures were into the middle and upper 70s this morning. Behind the cold front, temperatures were a lot cooler, more refreshing air across the upper Midwest, into the high plains here toward the Dakotas, and out west into the Pacific Northwest United States. Temperatures were into the 40s, 50s, and 60s out there this morning. Let's look at the weather alerts across the United States here today. In the orange, we have heat advisories. Look how extensive this is, covering most of New England, the Northeast, back into the Ohio Valley, in the central Great Lakes. In the maroon reds, those are excessive heat watches for eastern portions of Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And in the pinks, those are excessive heat warnings, especially where we have higher population. That's where we're seeing more of those excessive heat warnings in those urban island areas. Now, looking at the afternoon high temperatures today, we're back into the 90s. You guessed it, across the eastern two-thirds of the United States, into southeastern Canada, but a lot cooler behind the cold front across the north into the upper Midwest, into the high plains, and even parts of the central plains today. Back into the Pacific Northwest, temperatures are a lot cooler here into the 60s and 70s this afternoon. Heat index values, though, out ahead of that front, we're going to be up to near 100 in Detroit, 94 in Indianapolis, 98 in Cincinnati, and 103 even up here into upstate New York. So very hot across most of the eastern United States. Looking yesterday at the storm reports across the United States, another busy day for severe weather. We had 5 tornado reports across southwestern Kansas with a couple of supercells across those areas. We did have some damaging wind, hail reports across the United States as well, sporadically from the upper Midwest back to the plains and across the Northeast into the Ohio Valley. Looking at the placement of the cold front today, there you go. It's across portions of Wisconsin, Iowa, down here into the Kansas City region. Out ahead of that, the air is unstable, and that's where we're going to have the chance for severe weather. There you go. We have the marginal risk of severe weather in the green. Yellow area, there's a slight risk level 2 out of 5 from the Detroit area down into Toledo there and near portions of Cleveland as we go into the afternoon. Another slight risk with our tropical feature. This is Tropical Storm Alberto that is moving into Mexico and coastal Texas. We have Corpus Christi down to Brownsville, a slight risk for severe weather as well. Looking at the probabilities of severe weather, we have the chance for 60-mile-per-hour winds, especially in this yellow shaded area or even brown shaded areas here across the United States. A hail threat is going to be pretty isolated today, and the tornado threat is more confined to areas, again, with that tropical storm, with Tropical Storm Alberto from coastal Texas down there toward east coast of Mexico. So let's look here at the instability. This is your thunderstorm fuel as we go through the afternoon. Highest values across the Northeast and New England into southeastern Canada, where these oranges, reds, and purples come together. That is 2,000, 3,000, if not 4,000 joules per kilogram of instability here. So looking at the thunderstorm coverage this afternoon, pretty spotty out there as we go through the afternoon. Popcorn type of storms this evening. We'll continue to see that. Very heavy rains, though, across south central Texas with the tropical moisture moving in off of the Gulf of Mexico into south central Texas, San Antonio, into portions of Corpus Christi, Victoria, Texas, and even the Brownsville area this evening. As we go into early Thursday morning, the tropical moisture and rains will continue across South Texas, but more spotty storm activity on the northern periphery of our heat as we still have some active storms further to the north. Going through late this week, particularly the first day of summer tomorrow and on Friday, the 21st of June, we're going to see that heat continue to expand and intensify across the eastern United States. Here are your temperature anomalies late week, and we're going to keep an eye on a couple features here. Notice the below normal temperature anomalies out here toward the Rio Grande Valley into northern Mexico. That is cooling us off because the cloud cover and associated precipitation from the Tropical Storm Alberto down here. And then to the north, we have a little bit of a cool front, or a cold front, if you will, across portions of the northern U.S. That will bring cooler air to the Dakotas, Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and the upper peninsula of Michigan, and then warmer air out ahead of that. Let's look here at our temperatures starting off tomorrow morning, basically like we saw here this morning. Into the 70s we go across the eastern U.S. We're going to warm right back up into the 80s and 90s Thursday morning. Friday morning, same thing, 70s across the east. Friday afternoon, we're back into the 80s, back into the 90s here across the eastern and southeastern U.S. And then behind that cool front, we're going to see a lot cooler air with some rounds of showers and storms to the north, into the Dakotas, into Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the upper peninsula of Michigan Friday afternoon, cooling our temperatures off a little bit up there. Let's look here at your Thursday severe weather potential. We have a marginal risk over here into the plains and into western Nebraska, particularly the Panhandle area, southeastern Wyoming and northeastern Colorado, and then a slight risk over here into the northeast, basically west of Boston, all the way back through Albany, New York, and into the northeastern portion of Pennsylvania as we go through Thursday. Looking at that, it's the northern periphery of all that heat, spotty thunderstorm activity. Not everybody will see a storm. That will continue into Thursday evening. As we go deeper into the night, we're going to lose the peak instability, the thunderstorm fuel, with the sunshine going down, and that means the thunderstorm coverage and intensity will begin to wane deeper into Thursday evening and into Thursday night. The same thing here on Friday. We have a marginal risk of severe weather, one up here into, again, northern Nebraska, parts of South Dakota, into central portions of Minnesota, western Wisconsin, and then another one over here in towards the northeast region, into Pennsylvania, into New Jersey, New York State, and Connecticut as we go into Friday. Again, spotty storm coverage as we go into Friday afternoon. That continues into Friday evening. A little bit more numerous coverage potentially up near the cold front into the upper Midwest as we have a lot more wind shear up here. So the thunderstorms Friday evening, Friday night could persist a little bit longer for places like western Wisconsin, Minnesota, South Dakota, northwest Iowa, and then back into Nebraska as we go into that time frame late week. This weekend, yes, the heat is still on. It will still continue this weekend. We got a little bit of a trough across the upper Midwest here, especially the northern part of Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan. Basically the very far upper Midwest and the upper Great Lakes region. Otherwise, we're going to see a lot of heat building. There you go. Look at all the orange and the red here on your screen. It's no surprise where the heat will be. The Ohio Valley, the mid-Atlantic into the northeast. Southern Canada seeing some above normal temperatures, and then out west we're going to start to see more warmth begin to build as we go into the upcoming weekend as well. So looking at your high temperatures, this is for Saturday, June 22nd. Yes, you guessed it, more 90s and triple digits on the way across many of the same areas here from the Midwest, especially the lower Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Southeast, all the way up here toward the Mid-Atlantic, and that will continue over into Sunday as well, maybe just a smidge cooler from north to south as we go into Sunday, but any way you slice it, it's just hot as we go into the weekend. Looking at our severe weather chances on Saturday, the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma currently doesn't have any outlooked areas for severe weather on Saturday or for Sunday, June 23rd, but I do think with this pattern, we could still see those marginal, if not slight risk days for severe weather as we do get closer and more confidence grows for the potential of some storm complexes as we go through that time frame, because there will be a cold front developing across portions of the upper Midwest and driving southeastward as we go through the day on Saturday. And ahead of that, we're going to be building up the instability, right? So we're going to see the sun shining out here in places like Chicago, Milwaukee, Rockford, Illinois. But as we get into Saturday night, that cold front comes in, that could bring a line, or at least a broken line, of showers and storms, and a few of which could produce some gusty winds and some at least small hail, but we'll have to keep an eye on that storm energy as we go into Saturday night. Going into Sunday, that storm activity moves more into southeastern Canada, into Ontario and Quebec, but there could be some activity in the northern Ohio Valley with a more diffuse cold front. That will be moving into Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York State and parts of the northeast as we go into Sunday night. And then look to the west. It's dry. Yes, it's going to be hot as we end the weekend there on Sunday and Sunday night. Here are the rainfall totals as we go through Sunday night. So this is from right now, this second, all the way through Sunday night here on June 23rd. The heaviest rains in the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, back into the Central Plains here. And then with Tropical Storm Alberto down here, we'll talk about more in just a minute, more in depth, but you can see southern Texas, Corpus Christi, Victoria, Texas, down here into Brownsville, San Antonio, and Austin. You guys are going to see some heavier rains as we go through that time frame with that tropical moisture as well. Going into next week, we have a little bit of a flatter ridge, which means a more zonal pattern in our jet stream here right over the top of this ridge between the cooler air in Canada and the warmer and really absolutely hot temperatures in the United States next week. Look at that. Most of the United States here outside of Washington State, maybe southern Texas, maybe southern Florida will be well above normal with our temperature anomalies from Monday, June 24th, all the way through Friday, June 28th. And looking at early next week, here's the heat. Yes, you guessed it. More 90s across the United States. That will continue as we go into the middle of next week. Some of that warmth will begin to build further north, and that will continue as we go into late next week, although a cold front again will be approaching the upper Midwest, bringing more showers and storms on the northern periphery, all that heat. And look at all the triple digits we got late next week from Virginia, West Virginia, maybe even Pittsburgh, 101 maybe by Friday, late next week. Something to keep an eye on as we go into that time frame. Here is your precipitation late next week. We always talk about the northern periphery of the heat. That's where we see the storm activity here, that ring of fire pattern. That continues as we go into next week. A lot of instability still showing up on the model guidance for next week here, especially by the middle of next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday time frame. The European model is showing some pretty high values there in the purples and the whites. That's 4,000 to 5,000 joules per kilogram. The GFS, the American model, very much in the same boat, maybe just a little further east, 4,000, 5,000 joules per kilogram. And the Canadian ensemble guidance, the GEM model, is showing some purples and whites, again, 4,000 to 5,000 joules per kilogram next week as well. So severe weather will need to be watched, especially in this orange, but especially even more so in this red shaded color. If you do live in this orange or red shaded color, you have a medium to high probability of severe weather here in my forecasts at some point next week, especially toward the middle of the week there around that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday time frame. But just in general, between Monday, June 24th and Friday, June 28th, that's where that would be. Now, turning over to the tropics, Tropical Storm Alberto has just been named across portions of the western Gulf of Mexico. Continues to push to the west. We have very warm shelf waters here in the east coast of Mexico and coastal Texas, so this is going to have no problem continuing to maintain its intensity, maybe just increase in intensity just slightly on its approach there to eastern Mexico. This is currently a 40-mile-per-hour tropical storm, and we have tropical storm warnings from basically Corpus Christi all the way down here into the Bay of Campeche there for east coast of Mexico, and this will continue to be a tropical storm through tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. before it moves more inland and weakens more to a tropical depression by tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock into central Mexico. This is going to be producing a lot of rain. It's already produced a lot of rain. It's going to continue to produce a lot of rain here in the yellows and oranges. You see 6, 8, 12 inches worth of rain still on the way for Laredo, down here into Brownsville, Corpus Christi, maybe even San Antonio seeing an inch or two of rain as we go through that Friday, June 21st timeframe to end the week. Here's your flash flooding risk: Laredo, Corpus Christi, Brownsville in the thick of it here today with a moderate risk for flash flooding. That continues as we go in through Friday morning there with a slight risk and then a marginal risk even continuing into the opening stages of the weekend there on Saturday. Looking at storm surge, this is your peak storm surge forecast from the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida. 1 to 3 foot storm surge from the Sabine Pass all the way back over here toward portions of the Vermilion Cameron Parish line. And then we have a 2 to 4 foot peak storm surge around the Galveston Bay area. And then south of there, going all the way down to the mouth of the Rio Grande Valley, we're going to have more of that 1 to 3 foot storm surge. So around the Corpus Christi area, down there through portions of Brownsville, that's where that 1 to 3 foot storm surge will continue to be over the next couple of days. And looking at the Eastern Pacific side, very quiet for now. That's some great news. National Hurricane Center over the next 7 days does not expect any tropical cyclones in the Eastern Pacific Basin. We'll hope to keep it that way as we go deeper into the hurricane season. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel down below as we do cover North America, across southern Canada, the United States, the tropics on this channel. Make sure to give it a like down below. If you like today's weather forecast, leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. We'll get to those later on today, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Wednesday out there.